What is going on, everybody? It is Sunday night. I am Bebe, and this is the I-71 Playbook Podcast. With me is my ever amazing sidekick, Mr. BC.
What up, BB? How are we doing tonight?
We're doing, sir. We are absolutely doing.
Are we ready for the holidays?
We are, as you can tell, this is not normal backdrop, so we are actually on location. The fun news is I'm actually in the state of Ohio as we
welcome,
record tonight.
welcome
So
back, and OH to you.
I owe to you, sir.
So, what is on our agenda tonight?
So tonight on our agenda, unfortunately, we do need to talk about the stain on Sundays, which is now known as the Browns. But we've also got some Guardians news to talk about as well. We got a big thing happened last night with our Buckeyes, so we'll get into that. So unfortunately, we got to talk about it.
So, let's get the Browns out of the way here. We're not going to spend too much time on the Browns. Season's lost. It is painful to watch. What made my pain even worse this week was I decided to be productive on Sunday and do some cleaning around the house, getting ready for Christmas. We are hosting, so we'll have some friends over here Christmas night. And as I was cleaning, I put headphones on, listened to Andrew Siciliano and Nathan Segura, because at least they're entertaining. They do, once again, they just do a fantastic job on the call. And what I noticed as I had the TV going in the living room as I was cleaning, the TV was about I'd say probably about 30 seconds ahead of the internet feed. I was streaming on Odyssey, and so every painful play, it seemed like I happened to walk in and see it again. So I would hear it, go and then I would see it, and it was just
Even worse.
it's just doubly worse. So let's talk real quickly about the state of the Browns. We are now in the 5th spot for the draft. We are moving on up. I would like to thank the Los Angeles. I almost said Los Angeles Raiders. Then I'm going to screw up and say the Oakland Raiders. When this year I was in Vegas to see the Vegas Raiders play the Browns. But we like to thank them.
Be the Oakland Raiders though, because that's like what I grew up with.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the LA Raiders, I've seen the Oakland Raiders, and the LA Raiders, the Oakland Raiders again, and now Vegas. We need to thank them for their win over other AFC powerhouse Jacksonville. So the Raiders won, which actually puts them with a 3-12 record like us behind us, because they have a stronger strength of schedule. And
of course they do.
Yeah, so that's a good thing, right? And if we are looking for a quarterback early in the draft, Vegas is definitely looking for a quarterback. So it's good to be there. If we're not looking for a quarterback, we're getting to that spot where people want to trade up to get a quarterback. So that was a good thing. That was a good thing that came out of today's debacle. We know there are some things we can come away this year. We know for sure. The more and more I think about it, the less and less Deshaun Watson's going to even be on this roster next year. I think they're just going to cut bait after June. We know that Jameis Winston is not going to be our savior.
Unfortunately.
We know. I think there's enough tape and film on DTR to know that he's just not a starting quarterback in the NFL. I mean, he's got a couple weeks here to prove me wrong, but he throws with absolutely no touch. There was one pass in particular to Mike Woods, and it happened last week when DTR came in. There was a pass last week where the ball got. He's got a strong arm. I believe he had at the combine. He threw the hardest ball in the history of the combine. I could be wrong, but he threw it over 50 miles per hour. It was pretty crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, he's got a rocket for an arm, but that's the one speed. That's the only speed he has. Not a lot of touch. He does not read defenses well. I could have told you what Cincinnati was going to do, that they were going to blitz, and they did, and he had no idea what to do. But I don't want to even make this about DTR. I just want to talk about the state of the Browns.
But here's my thing. I do want to jump in there real quick.
Absolutely.
this is, I think, maybe our fourth time that we've seen DTR, and it's his second season with the Browns. I'm not ready to count the kid out just yet. Obviously, we're gonna have to roll with him for the next 2 games and see, what he
Bailey
can
Zappi time. It's Bailey Zappi
do.
time.
Bailey Zappi is also not the answer.
Hey,
But
although I
what
did
I would
watch,
love
I did spend one Sunday against a good Browns team and watch him go up and down the field for New England. I'm just saying. No,
all
I'm
right.
not claiming Bailey. Go
But
ahead. Sorry.
what I would like to see, what I would honestly like to see is what he does if we go back to an offense style like we had last year that was successful for us. Because clearly, with them throwing out the entire offense to cater to our $250,000 baby, um, clearly it doesn't work for anybody in this program. So what I would like to see is us to go back to our roots a little bit and go back to something that we know was working. And I kind of would like to see what he can do under that. But what I would really love to see with our draft picks, I don't know if it's got to be number 5. And you know what I'm going to say.
I know where you're going.
We need a kicker. I don't care if Jimmy goes shopping in Columbus and raids the pantry for what he's got down there. I don't care if we pick some kid from.
I have a special message for Jimmy. Do it. Go down 71, Jimmy. It's the name of the pod. It's the name of the pod. Like and subscribe. Jimmy Haslam, like and subscribe to the pod.
Hey. Like and subscribe, please, and thank you. It's just so I was actually I did not watch the game today, even though I am in the state, because I was actually driving to the Monsters game, headed on in the car, heard the opening drive, the rocket that he throws, and Jerome Ford takes off like a bat out of Hades, gets us down to the 2 finally.
I think 4.
The 4.
I think you got to the 4. Yeah.
And then Cleveland Browns quarterbacks do what Cleveland Browns quarterbacks do so well, which is throw a pick in the end zone.
Actually, that's not. Okay, hold on. That's not where the end zone pick came.
No.
No. So that was they ran Jerome Ford.
Okay.
They brought in. Oh man, I'm having a brain fart. I'm losing his name. They brought in their backup running back.
Wasn't it Devontae?
Yes, thank you.
Or DeAndre?
Yeah. He fumbled on the goal line.
So
where
Jerome,
Cincinnati had it. First and 10 from the 1-yard line, and methodically drove down the field 99 yards for a touchdown. 14 point Swain, and I'm not even worried about remembering the backup running back's name. I don't know why I've just lost it. He's not going to be here next year anyway. He didn't play for the rest of the game after the fumble, so
No.
But going back.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, going back to the kicker thing. I thought of you immediately when Dustin Hopkins shanked that. I said, I know BB's going to actually probably argue for a first-round pick for a kicker next year.
Stranger things have happened.
It's my big complaint about Division I football kickers. Like, I don't know how programs like Ohio State, and now there's some good kickers, but like Ohio State struggles. It seems like year in year out with their kicking game beyond 30 yards. For me, I don't understand how a program like that. I've had people try to give me many different explanations, but how a program like that can't get a kicker. It's the NFL. There's only 32 NFL kickers out there.
Right.
It can't be that hard. I mean, we're not even talking this country because we have a lot of kickers from other countries. Okay, we're getting close to 8 billion people on Earth. You can't tell me you can't find 32 people that can kick a field goal and not have the
Like
yips.
I said, at this point, I've already touched on it. What is Kathy Ireland doing? Can we get Phil Dawson back here? Can he take some time off from coaching in Texas?
Here,
I'll do another callback for you. what about, Reese Ifans from the replacements? Can we get him? Nigel?
So weird. You just brought him. It's so weird. I just had a conversation about him. That's a whole different thing for a different pod. But it's one of those things. Hey, where have we seen him before? And yeah. So anyway, state of the Browns. Yeah, kicking game. We definitely need a kicker. But I try to look at it objectively today. The defense played actually pretty well, considering more turnovers by the offense. They couldn't sustain a drive in the first quarter. They have two really good young players on the defensive line. Isaiah McGuire, he forced a fumble, had a strip sack today. He has played really well this second half. He is that guy they've been looking to put opposite of Miles. He's that you pencil him for the starter next year. He's that guy. Mike Hall, hopefully, being the Ohio State fan I am, I was really excited when they took him, and then, he had the off the field issues, and I'm hopefully that young man can get his head straight, because he is a problem up the middle. He is collapsing pockets. So
in the best possible way, he is a menace.
He is, absolutely, and we don't mean that in any other way that you could possibly.
No, when I refer to as a player as a menace in the NFL, that is actually the highest compliment that I can possibly give them, because they are a problem.
Yeah, he and last year, and that was one of the things I didn't really understand about Jim Knowles' defense last year, is he did not play Mike Hall a majority of the snaps. I'm not sure if there was an injury. I'm not sure if there might have been a problem behind the scenes, but all I know is that kid's putting in good reps every time he's in there, and that defensive line is going to be okay next year.
Did we have him last season? Because I thought
No. He played Ohio State last year.
Right.
Yeah. No, I said Jim Knowles, defense coordinator for Ohio State, was not using him.
You are right. I am so sorry.
My bad. Jim Knowles, Jim Schwartz, same thing. I feel good. I feel good about the defense. I mean, Denzel's a lockdown cornerback. I don't think Greg Newsome will be back, but hopefully Martin Emerson can. He's just having a bad year. The safeties, you need to get safety to help Grant Delpit. Grant Delpit played another good game. He's really flown under the radar this year. He's had a really solid season. Thoughts with JOK. I'm hoping he can come back. We still haven't heard anything about that injury. But if he comes back, I mean, he's, once again, you're putting a Pro Bowler, possible All-Pro right in the middle of that defense, calling it. And I mean, he was playing at that level till he got hurt. So the defense is going to be okay. Maybe you just get some depth. Offensive line needs some depth. And we've had the worst offensive line luck in the last couple of years, just injury after injury after injury. Hopefully DeJuan Jones gets better, can keep his weight under control, can stay strong, and solidify that left tackle position. Jack Conklin's playing great. We still have him locked up for another year. Wyatt Teller had another strong game today, so he's starting to look like the Wyatt Teller of a couple years ago. The offensive line did not look terrible. I give most of the sacks up. Most of the sacks they gave up today were a lot of the inexperience by DTR not being able to read the field. I think they gave up 4, and I think 3 of them were caused by just DTR not moving in the pocket, trying to run out of the pocket, those kind of things. Skill position, Jerry Jeudy's it. Like he's good. Cedric Tillman was playing well. Hopefully he come back and play these last couple games so we can see more. Elijah Moore is going to be cheap if you want to re-sign him. David Njoku, he can stay healthy once again. He's a Pro Bowl tight end. Jerome Ford's playing well. Nick Chubb's coming back next year. We got really good news on the broken foot front that it's only going to be a 5 to 6 week injury, so he'll be right back for the offseason program. He's going to be okay.
That's great.
Yeah, Kevin Stefanski said that last week that a broken foot was better than it was actually a pretty good injury to have compared to what he's went through. So a lot of our worries, thankfully, were for nothing last week. A lot of people trying to say Nick Chubb was done. It comes down to quarterback. It comes there. I know we are going to deep dive on quarterback when the season's over. We're not going to get too much into it. I would just tell everybody out there, free agent wise, it's slim pickings. Kirk Cousins is going to be available, but he has not played well this year. He does play well in a Kevin Stefanski offense, maybe not um, a four wide, five wide like they're trying to run in Atlanta. But Kirk Cousins, has a history with Kevin Stefanski. But there are times they intersected at the Vikings. Justin Fields is who I would like them to go get. Justin Fields is more likely going to be a free agent, but once again, great athlete, great arm. Just once again, he has trouble. He has trouble reading the field. He did in Chicago. He did early on in Pittsburgh this year. Sam Darnold is going to get way too much money from somebody. Might be Minnesota. He's going to get paid, and
Yes.
I don't think like you're looking probably at a Baker Mayfield kind of contract. So you're going to look at $35 to $40 million a year for Sam Darnold. I'm not sure the Browns are going to, they're going to have to go somewhere cheap, like a rookie contract plus a free agent that maybe is looking to prove themselves, because they have to offset the at least $80 million of QB non-existent. I was going to say QB4 because there's no QB4 in the NFL, but we'll call him QB4 because QB4's contract. So those are things I have to look at. I think the Browns, if they get competent quarterback play next year, will be competitive. If they get good quarterback play, they can compete with anybody. The defense, nobody's quit, and it goes back. And I heard somebody poo-pooing, oh, it's not a big deal that they have quit on their coach, blah, blah, blah. They're grown men. They're playing for, No, it's a big deal. We have seen teams quit. We have seen teams quit on their coaches. And they're still playing hard. Like
Absolutely.
I said, that defense is still playing with pride. And they just need to get quarterback figure out and obviously kicker.
Yes, thank you. But there was a shining moment from today's Browns game that I do want to talk about before we move on. Miles joined the Century Club. He got his 100th career sack. And he did it before his 29th birthday. So I did hear that little stat on the way down to the hockey game today, which was he was sitting at 99.
99 and a half. 99 and a half.
99 and a half. You're right. 99 and a half.
Half sacks are the dumbest stat. They're the dumbest stat in football.
Right. Like, it's you either sack the guy or you don't.
Right.
Like,
and if there's two guys that get the sack, they both get a sack. Yeah, two guys are in on it. Just give them both the sack. But hey,
right.
I digress.
It's not a sandwich. You don't need to cut it in half. Like, just give everybody a piece. It's fine. But congratulations to Miles on your 100th career sack. I'm glad you got it against Cincinnati's Macaulay Culkin. I'm so proud of you, dude. You'll never hear this, but we're proud of you.
No, Miles Garrett, first ballot Hall of Famer, youngest to ever do it, to get to 100. Take that, TJ Watt. When we're talking about the greatest to be in the game right now, Miles got there first. No, Miles did not get there first, but he got there younger. Anyway, no. That it brings up Miles' comments this week. I don't know if you saw the press conference.
I did, and so that's actually kind of surprising to see out of Miles, because he is the company man. He is very, I toe the line. I am very pro my team.
We got to pause.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so we're back. We we purposely left in that cut there as we were talking about Miles. We'll get back to Miles in a second. So, BB, have you heard about the drones / UAP / UFOs that have been flying all over the country?
I have, actually.
So, you may have heard, I was summoned upstairs to go outside to see my neighbors outside looking up, and there was one flying over my house.
What? Like
the red, green, and white lights that you see on all these films. I, of course, screwed up filming it. I tried to get it. It was a little far away by the time I got to it. It was huge. I would. It looked like the size of a fighter jet. They had no propellers, but it sounded like I've heard actually twin propeller Harrier copters. It sounded that loud. I'd say it's probably 1,500, 2,000 feet off the ground. It was not very high. Um, like I said, the size of it was enormous. It's nothing I've ever seen in my life. I'm kind of actually shook right now.
That's
Yeah, when you hear people talk about these things,
uh-huh.
yeah, I don't know who is controlling these. I don't know who is making these, but it is a piece of aircraft that can hover, that can accelerate. Like it was over our house, and before I knew it, it was over to school by my house in a matter of seconds. And then as more and more people were coming out, it just kind of disappeared off into the behind the school that we live by. And yeah, so that's why we got interrupted. We had a UFO encounter, and it is an unidentified flying
Oh,
object because the federal government says they don't know what it is. And for some reason, it is flying over rural Ohio now. But it's real, and I could tell you myself, my wife, and our neighbors were pretty shook after what we just saw. Because it's
yeah, that's
yeah, that's not something that's being remote piloted that you could have bought at Radio Shack. This thing was big. It was big. It was large, and it was maneuvering like I've never seen anything maneuver.
wow.
Yeah. So anyway, back to the
Wow.
pod.
Yeah.
Happy Sunday before Christmas. Whew.
Woo.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm still, like I said, my YouTube feed. I've been watching a lot of the reports of these things and a lot of the reactions from people debunking what these things are to people saying that they're transdimensional beings. I have no idea what I just saw. No clue.
I mean, if it one, I will say this, because this would be something for a completely different podcast altogether. We talk sports over here, but if there's got first of all, there's got to be more intelligent life out there than us. I mean, have you seen some of the people who occupy this planet? I'm just saying. But
I'm gonna keep some thoughts and comments to myself.
I would just gonna we're gonna leave it at that
We,
because
we
there are
well,
words that
once
I
once
cannot
again,
say.
that is for when we set up a Patreon and people want to get our off-air comments, which are much more unfiltered than what they get here.
They are quite entertaining. Our text thread between the games is quite entertaining. But what I will say is this: at this point, if there is stuff that is out there, clearly there is. I'm ready. Let's go. Let's just.
Just I don't know what I
I
just.
take direction well. Like, let's just go. I'm here for it.
So just a little insight here. I've been following these things. I don't think my wife was a believer.
Mhm.
Because she's like, there's got to be an explanation. It's got to be something government. What she just saw, she can't explain. What I just saw, I can't explain. Um,
Yeah.
it, it is the exact same thing that they're seeing all over the country, to a T. Like I've seen that thing on video, but seeing it in real life here, and I mean, it was loud. Like it was like if you've ever heard a helicopter take off, that's
Yeah.
what it sounded like, but it was high. A couple thousand feet in the air.
Well,
So
and I heard her call down to you,
yeah,
and I was not. This was not a oh hey, can you come here for a second type of a tone of voice. This was something weird's coming on.
yeah. She
Coming.
she. I knew something was afoot because she would never interrupted us recording, unless there was something that I had to
Majorly
see.
wrong.
Yeah, and yeah. Uh, the fact that it flew right over the house, I missed that. But it was down, like I said, probably a couple hundred yards away from our house when I got out there. By the time I got the phone, it was over we live basically on a high school campus. We live pretty close to a high school here, and it was over at the high school. And then the funny thing was, is as soon as it was gone, there was probably 5 or 6 cars pulled into the high school parking lot because people were seeing it. My neighbors were outside. Like I said, it was pretty incredible. Whatever we just saw was pretty incredible. So
That is wild.
Myles Garrett, congratulations. Let's move on to the Buckeyes. Sound good?
Sure.
Yeah. About them Buckeyes.
How about them Buckeyes? Before we get to them Buckeyes, we gotta talk about. There was actually some other big news that happened last night while the Buckeye game was going on.
What was that, BB?
So the Guardians apparently are in a little bit of a fire sale mode. We're selling off some things apparently cheap. We did complete a trade last night with the Arizona Diamondbacks. Now I know that this name has been bouncing around on the trade block for quite a while, and they finally pulled the trigger on it. But our first baseman, Mr. Josh Naylor, is going to Arizona. Now, we are not coming back empty-handed. We're actually bringing back a bit of a familiar face.
Now he wasn't part of the trade, right? But he was signed as a free agent.
No, he was.
Oh, was he?
No, we.
Okay, I misread the tweet or Blue Sky or whatever. What do you call Blue Sky? I know you and I have both gotten rid of our Twitter.
Water.
All right, we got rid of our
because it's a butterfly. I don't know.
Yeah, whatever. We need to come up with something because I mean, just go back to tweets. They can have tweets. Elon doesn't want tweets, so let's.
To be fair, it's the same guy who originally created Twitter, so I vote we go back to calling them tweets.
Sounds good.
But anyway, for the third time with the Cleveland franchise, making an appearance at first base, Carlos Santana.
So,
I have thoughts.
I do too. I do too. Josh Naylor is, him and Jose are the face of this franchise. They are. Josh Naylor, I understand, was going to have to get paid. You don't hit 30 home runs, 100 RBIs year after year. His batting average wasn't even terrible. 260, 270 last year. Like, he hit pretty well last year. Okay. I also realized that local Northeast Ohio kid Kyle Manzardo really started coming into his own at the end of the year. I actually was up at Progressive Field when he hit his first home run. He actually hit 2 that game. And I happened to be sitting next to friends of his family from Jackson, Ohio, from Massillon, Ohio, Jackson High School. Kyle Manzardo played. And I realized that he is the future of first base. I also realized that Big Christmas is going to be doing some DH and long play in the outfield. So there's a logjam there.
Yeah.
But, you can't have too many hitters. You can't have too much talent. No. Unless you're the Cleveland Guardians. And, like I said, I understand the strategy behind it, but as a fan, as a fan who has grown up, just living and dying with this franchise. I'm as big as Gardo's fans, Indian fan, as I ever was a Browns fan. And as you know, I'm more of a baseball. I've always been a baseball guy.
You are a baseball guy.
And so I understand, like, my head understands, but my heart aches on this one. Like, the Jimenez trade, I get it. You just drafted, one of the top prospects, number 1 overall. He plays second base. He's going to be on the short, he's going to be on a short track back up to Cleveland. He's not going to be in the minors very long. But this one gets me. I think this one hurts the fans, and I think this is one of those where Larry Dolan. I just don't think this is a good move. You have enough trouble with your fan support. You actually started packing Progressive last year. I mean, it's one of their best years for attendance in a long time, and you're now getting rid of two of your starters and two very popular players. And I just, like I said, strategy baseball wise, I get it. Money wise, I get it. I understand the financial realities of being a small market team in the major leagues. But man, Josh Naylor, just it's not going to be the same without that guy on this team. It's just not.
No, I think, and I agree with you. He was a great leader on the field. He was a great leader in the clubhouse. But the Dolans are going to do Dolan things, and it's not going to make. I mean, again, I'm with you. Business wise, I understand it. From a fan perspective, I also am not overly thrilled with it.
I think it's fair. I'm sorry. I just think it's fair to say baseball's broken, right? Major League Baseball is broken.
Absolutely.
Okay. It's broken. I sit here and I watch the Mets sign Juan Soto to $1 billion deal, or just under $1 billion. I see the Yankees, making trades for former MVPs and giving up a prospect and a long reliever. And I watch the Guardians have to trade all-stars.
Yeah.
Have to trade faces of the franchise because of the economic realities of this game. And it's why viewership's down. It's why attendance league-wide's down. And if baseball doesn't figure out something better than this crappy revenue-sharing model they have, Major League Baseball is in trouble. It is in trouble.
And the viewership is down because, especially with the Cleveland franchise, there's no access to it.
Yeah, these regional sports networks are terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Thankfully, that's starting. I think that's going to start to go away this season. So we're going to see some changes with it, and we can get more into that at a later time.
Yeah, I think it's some more off-season fodder for us.
One of the, so just from a personal standpoint, my father also grew up going to Cleveland Indians games, was a huge supporter. I can remember going to the games in '95 when we went for the World Series run, the 97, he was all excited. We went, and I was a kid, and it was great. And it was great to spend time with him with that. But, unfortunately, my dad is getting up, a little older in age. He can't make it down to the ballpark. So trying to find and get him still access to watch Guardians games is impossible. Because even if you spend the money for the MLB network, you're under a regional blackout still.
Yeah, you still can't see your own home team.
You can literally watch every other team but the one that is 35 minutes from your house.
Yep.
That's a problem.
And then on the other hand, too, let's do a little quick comparison. The NFL is now allowed streaming for free within 100 miles of a team's city.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's 50 or 100 miles, whatever it is. It's like, so you can go on and stream the NFL, and you can't watch the Guardians.
No.
I can listen to the Browns from two different streaming sites. I can listen to the Browns on the radio. I can watch every Browns game, but I can't watch the Guardians. I have to pay for FanDuel to watch the Cavs. And, baseball, like I said, right now is just broken. Mm-hmm. And until they allow, they worrying about really 4 teams, because we know there's 4 teams that Major League Baseball worries about. It's the New York Yankees, it's the New York Mets, it's the LA Dodgers, and it's the Boston Red Sox. That's what they care about.
Yep. And
until they realize that there are 28 other franchises, we're going to continue to be in this year after year. Sorry, this went on a rant that I was not expecting with Josh Naylor.
And you know what? And so I think we found a good place to kind of stop it there. And we'll definitely get more into the Guardians as the pod goes on. Because there's deep dives, and you're not wrong. The sport as a whole is broken. There's a lot of things within the Cleveland baseball realm that is broken. but we can always that's going to be a huge deep dive.
Yeah,
And
we're gonna have a little off season lull coming up here with the Browns finishing early. The college football playoffs will be coming to an end. Opening day won't be till April. We will definitely talk some Cavs. Hopefully the monsters get hot and we can talk some monsters hockey. And
the monsters are actually sitting at the top of their division right now.
Right.
Unfortunately, they did not pull out a win today. Unfortunately, they made a nice late surge, much like the college football games this weekend. But today was actually one of my favorite. Real quick, just before we get into the Buckeyes, today was actually one of my favorite hockey games ever.
Oh, wow.
So today was their teddy bear toss game.
And can we pull back the curtain a little? For you guys who don't know, BB, you were a season ticket holder with the Monsters, right?
I was
when you were living in the Cleveland area. So
when I was living in the Cleveland area, I was a season ticket holder for 2 years. Shout out to original section 127. They've changed it now since they remodeled and changed the name and everything. But that was my original section. But the teddy bear toss game is one of my favorites for a lot of different reasons. A lot of the minor league teams participate. They do it around Christmas. Some of them do it like right after Thanksgiving. And it's basically what they do is they collect new or gently used stuffed animals and they donate them to children's charities, to hospitals, to just children in need. It's a great cause.
That's so cool.
And it is. So we went today, and actually there was a tiny little peanut that was sitting next to me. I think she was like 3 years old. Her and I were besties for about 3.5 quarters, or 2.5 periods. Thinking football, talking hockey. There's a problem. Numbers and words are hard.
Crossing streams.
Crossing a stream. Don't cross the stream.
Don't cross the streams.
So for like 2.5 periods, her and I were besties. And we had actually ended up bringing 3 garbage bags of stuffies to throw. So her family didn't bring any because they didn't know that it was that kind of game. The brother was playing before with his mates team. So I was like, can you help me throw these down to the ice? And her eyes got like huge and just this big old smile. Her mom and I were talking. So when they finally scored, when the Monster scored and we were able to start chucking those bears, I was just feeding them to her and she was having the time of her life. So, but it's for a great cause. The Monsters collected today over 21,000 stuffed animals that will be going to, again, children in need, to charities, to Rainbow Babies and Children's Hospital. It's a great cause.
So awesome.
So, but we'll talk some Monsters later.
Absolutely.
But so history made last night in the shoe. First ever home college.
I'm just saying number one.
Oh.
First one. I was trying to catch you off. My bad.
No, it's all good. But so yeah, first college football playoff game that Ohio State is hosting in the shoe, and lot of smack that was talked before about how it was going to be an orange takeover. And
so I got a funny story about that, by the way.
Oh.
So I happened to be in downtown Columbus yesterday, hours before the game.
Okay.
Had to do a little last minute Christmas shopping and found myself at Swenson's and Topgolf. You talk about a day. Rogue Fitness to Swenson's to Topgolf. That's how you spend a Saturday and you come home, watch the Buckeyes whoop the SEC. Like that is day. But anyway, while in Rogue Fit, well at the Rogue store, okay. There was a lot of Tennessee fans.
Yeah.
And so this is going to get to something I'm going to talk about here in a little bit. But since you brought on, Tennessee coming up 75 into 71 into Columbus, the invasion, as we kept hearing last night. I asked that guy, I said, how many fans do you think are coming up? Like, it was just one of the fans we were talking. And he said, maybe 15,000. Maybe 15,000. So I want to keep that 15 to 20,000 probably is a fair number. Maybe 1/5 of the shoe at the tops. Let's keep that in mind for when I talk about ESPN here in a little bit. But go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So this was a little bit of a redemption game for our Bucks. You know, the last time sounds like a old comic. You know, last time in the shoe.
It's not a good day.
Was not a good day. Was not a good Saturday. One of the very few night games that we got this season. I believe it was only the second one.
Yeah, please,
And it
Fox
was
Sports, give us
game.
some night games next year, please.
Please.
I did
For the
not think.
love of everything.
I was actually kind of excited when Fox Sports got this Big Ten network because I'm like, oh, good, somebody to rival ESPN and the SEC. But the fact that they kept putting us on at noon almost every week.
Noon.
Oh, come on.
Y'all.
Yeah. Just figure it out and get us some night games, please.
Yes, please. So this was a bit of a redemption game. This is a revenge game for us. And they opened the floodgates.
The proverbial can.
There was definitely a can of something that was opened up last night at the shoe. With our very, very own freshman phenom.
It's
He
amazing.
is number 4 in your playbooks, but he is number 1 in all of our hearts, Mr. Jeremiah Smith. I wanted to hear his name, and I texted you this last night when we were watching the game. I wanted to hear his name a lot last night. I wanted to hear Emeka's name last night. You know, there were lots of names I wanted to keep hearing. He is a freshman. Can we talk about that for a minute? This kid is a freshman.
Every time he made a play this year, I would just like, he's only 18 years old. Then he turned 19, so last night, he's only a freshman.
He's only a freshman.
My God, he's a
Good.
man-child. Man-child.
Like, I hope with everything he sticks with the program. I hope he does not fall victim to the portal, because I would love to see him for a number of years to come.
He's going to have really.
This kid is definitely something special. He is amazing.
I know there was a little consternation this week with the portal with Devin Smith and Aaron Nolan jumping in the portal, and that's once again we'll talk about that in the offseason. But Julian Sain's the real deal. He got a little time last night, threw a duck, which kind of made me laugh. His only pass attempt, but. He's going to have really good quarterback play. You know, Ohio State's going to be they're going to be a top 5 program. I can't foresee circumstances where you lose a Jeremiah Smith. Like I don't see that. So, but you know what? One of the problems with college football is we're having this conversation right now.
Absolutely.
It just dawned on me, like, that is a real problem with college football, is the fact that we're like, oh my God, we have this once-in-a-generation talent, which we had last year. His name was Marvin Harrison Jr. Now we have Jeremiah Smith. We did have Chris Olave. We did have Jackson Smith-Njigba. We did have Garrett Wilson. You know, like, the list goes on.
Yeah.
But, you know, the fact that we're like, please, Jeremiah, 2 more years, come on.
Right, you know.
But no, he seems, the one thing that I'm going to have my little rant here on the broadcast last night. But the one thing that they kept reiterating, and Ryan Day said it also in the it was pregame, postgame. I watched a couple of interviews with him. Can't remember which one, but he said not only is this kid a generational talent, he's a generational human, and that makes me happy to know that he's out working. They had to act. Kirk Herbstreit said in the broadcast that they actually had to tell him to tail off a little of the training because he was going too hard in practice, too hard in the weight room, and that's the kind of person you want to go to war with. You know, when you're on a football field, or when you're in a dugout, or when you're on the bench with, like, that's who you want to go to war with. You watch that kid with that natural talent.
Yeah.
Try to outwork everybody. You know, that was always my biggest thing about LeBron. You know, LeBron was, giving just gifts from the basketball gods, and yet he was still the first guy in the gym, the last guy out. He still is today. He's almost 40 years old. Did he turn 40 yet?
I think he's getting close.
It's this week, right? Like, he's into December. Anyway,
I think I'm not sure.
Yeah, anyway, I mean, that's why he's doing what he's doing, because he just
Mhm.
outworks everybody no matter what his gifts are. And that's what separates great from legend.
Mhm.
So someday I might tell you the Derek Jeter story that was told me by a friend of his, and you know what? You'll find out why he's a Hall of Famer. Something I always told my baseball
Okay.
players. Yeah, but anyway, back to the shoe.
I mean, just from the jump. I mean that we stepped on the gas and we jumped out to a real quick lead, and then our defense, they showed up, they showed out last night. I mean, just so you know me, you know I'm gonna come at you with some numbers.
Bring it.
So with like 3 minutes and 27 seconds left in the first quarter, okay? First quarter, Ohio State had 197 yards. Tennessee had
Yeah.
-6. Like, we haven't seen them come out on all four cylinders like that. I think all season.
I'm a
I think the
Mustang.
only game that may have been
You know I'm a
close was
Mustang guy, so let's go 8 cylinders.
Oh, if that is true, that is my apologies. All 8 cylinders.
There
Let's
we go.
let them horses run a little bit.
Love my
Um,
V8s in a hybrid world. I love my V8.
you know, and the only other game that I can think of that we came out firing that hard and that fast was the Indiana game. And we're going to talk about the Indiana game here in a minute.
I was
Because,
wondering if you were going to have some thoughts for our friend Kirk Signetti.
I told you when we were texting last night that if the Buckeyes pulled it out and if Indiana did, was further exposed by Notre Dame, that I would be absolutely insufferable. Um, we're going to get to that. Don't worry.
Kirk Signetti, here comes your eulogy. Be ready.
Just saying. You can Google it later. But what I want to talk about though is we come out for a quarter and a half and it's all gas, it's no breaks. The offense is just go go go. Will Howard is on point. Defense is going wild. And then we get into the second quarter. And then we start playing conservatively. And I don't understand why. And I understand, and you and I have had this conversation, we've had this conversation multiple times, and you're not wrong. When you switch to a zone defense with a young quarterback like, Nico Iamilava, it screws with them. I get it.
And by the way, case in point, I was thinking about our conversation about that. We were talking about this. They were man to man early on, and they went to zone, and the Bengals did the same thing to DTR today. It was like the same exact thing. They started out man blitzing, lots of pressure. Then they backed off the pressure and just went into zone, and DTR just did not know what to do. So it does with a younger quarterback, switching. First of all, having to identify it's a zone because it's a whole different passing concepts that you have to figure out on the fly. Like that's hard. I don't know. Nico's 18, 19. That's hard. That's hard to do. That's hard for anybody to do, let alone a freshman in that environment.
Mm-hmm. And I get that, but when you have such momentum going, you can't it was almost painful to watch. And again, the text messages between you and I are way more colorful and a lot more entertaining because some of the things that come out of my fingertips are quite entertaining.
Not safe for work.
Definitely not safe for work. The Sicilian and the Irish comes out a little bit. It'll be okay. But thankfully, they readjusted it again halfway through the third quarter, and then they put we went back on the gas.
Yeah, and one thing, there are some games where I'm never comfortable no matter how far I'm up.
Mm-hmm.
Last night, I was so relaxed, and that from our text. I would never ever once thought that we were in doubt, even when Tennessee gets 21-10, they get the ball for the second half, and once again we'll get to ESPN, but they're doing everything to think that this is a game. Not one
Hmm.
time. That kid was playing heroically
Absolutely.
with zero help, and I'm like, he can't beat Ohio State by himself. So at
No.
no point did Tennessee show me anything that they could get back in that game and be competitive, and they just weren't. They just weren't.
And just to talk about him for a little bit, because I am a football fan first and foremost. Game can recognize game. This kid, and I said it earlier, when I call someone a menace, this kid is going to be an absolute
Oh yeah.
menace, not only in college, but in the NFL. He's 6'6" as a freshman, and already he does an amazing job of being able to read the field and wait for a play to develop, which you can't teach that. Either you have it or you don't as a quarterback at college or at pro. But this kid, he's definitely got it. And he's a double threat because he's got legs on him. I mean, he was taking off and chewing up 8, 9 yards on his own. We do need to teach him to slide though at a quarterback. Just that's on his coaching staff, but whatever.
He
Um,
had an 8-inch crack in his helmet. I've never seen a helmet cracked ever in my life. I know it's
well,
happened, but I've never seen it. Like,
I've seen it happen. This is the third time that I've seen it
dude,
happen in
slide,
a
slide.
in a college game. Um, the first time in a college game, but the third time I've actually seen a helmet malfunction. And I know it was cold in Columbus last night, and I
Yeah.
know they all had some things to do with it. But yeah, honey, we need learn to slide, please and thank you. Because again, you're not my quarterback, but at the same time, you're making me a little nervous. Little easy, easy, gently. But but I'm glad that they did get back to the aggression. Um, you just they need to come out and play like they have something to prove.
And
And to kind of compare it to a program that's really really working right now in the pros is, the Detroit Lions. You guys have heard me talk about this before.
NFC North bias. Sorry. Anyway.
I am I am forever I am forever in an abusive relationship with the Cleveland Browns.
You need some hope.
However,
You need some hope.
I do. And you know what? But for the longest time though, the Lions were the Browns of the NFC North. So,
Help me, Dan Campbell. You're my only hope.
and we can talk about that next week when we have other things to talk about, because there's a shift and it actually can circle around and what needs to happen in Berea. So we'll get to that
Sounds
next
good.
week. But the thing about Dan Campbell and how he coaches, it doesn't matter if he is up 45-10. He still coaches that game that he's down by 3 or 6 or, however many. It doesn't matter. He's still making plays and he's still coaching that game like he's got to come from behind. And to me, it's a great way to approach a game, because even it doesn't matter, there's no comfortable zone. Like however high you're up, you can always go higher because they're going to be right on your heels, and it'll all boil down to, well, why did you go for 2? Because I couldn't go for 3.
Oh, Woody.
you know
Bringing back Woody.
Bringing back the Woody,
Bringing back Woody.
So I was very glad to see the guys pull it out last night. Jack Sawyer had an amazing game. And
That was the best game of his Buckeye career, without a doubt.
So I have a partner again who is of a Michigan persuasion, and we were watching the game last night, and he makes a comment to me, and it was great. Like, he actually gives me a lot of great one-liners and gold, so a shout out to him. But obviously there's all sorts of talk about planting flags on the block O. It's kind of the thing to do now. And he makes the comment, he goes, and Tennessee fans were all over social media leading into to last night's game.
Oh yeah, they're invading the North.
Right. It's going to be Nayland North
By the
and
way, how did that work out last time?
yeah, how'd that work out for you? No. Anyway, uh, he goes, you know what I want to see get planted in the middle of the Block O? Now, mind you, he's still riding the high from a couple of weeks ago,
Still
and I
feeling.
kind of sigh, going, I know where you sleep, sir. And he goes, I would love to see it be on the final drive of the game. I want to see their quarterback get planted right in the middle of the Block O at the 50-yard line. I go, you know what? I will allow it with one caveat. It would have had to been Sawyer to put him on his butt, because and definitely our defense definitely helped Mr. Nico fold his uniform quite a few times with him still in it. So that was
I was sitting there.
great news.
I was sitting there last night, just thinking about draft. I've been thinking Browns draft. I'm not gonna lie. I've been on draft simulators with the Browns. Just had the 7th pick now. Once again with the 5th pick. Just like going through just drafts. I love to do mock drafts, and I'm sitting there watching Jack Sawyer and JT Tuilamola, and I'm like, those guys' draft stock just went up. Those two guys. Oh, I mean, just absolutely skyrocketed. That defense was for real last night. They were playing with their pants on fire, which I wish we saw that consistently through the year. You saw it against Indiana, and I think it's Indiana. Ohio State responds really well to talk.
They do.
There wasn't a lot of talking before the Michigan game. They were in their own heads.
They were,
but
because they were already looking ahead to Oregon.
Indiana was talking. Indiana was chirping. Kirk Cinetti, your boy, was chirping. Tennessee all week was chirping. ESPN, we'll get into this in a second, was chirping. And that chirping got only worse up to kickoff, especially on the network. And should I just go into it right now?
Go for it.
Okay, public service announcement. ESPN, I hope you're listening. First of all, did you know, BB, that there were 250,000 Tennessee fans in the shoe last night?
Really?
Okay, so maybe that's a little exaggerated.
That's fabulous, because I'm pretty sure the shoe only holds about 110.
But
and
at
if we
one
do hold up 215, I'm pretty sure the big house is going to have a fit, because they won't allow it.
At one point,
according to the network,
at one point. Now, once again, we have to make clear. ESPN, who covered last night's game, is covering the playoffs. Is an SEC network.
Oh, big time.
That is their overlords. That's who they have the contract with. That's their corporate partners. So we have to keep that in mind when we're talking about what I'm about to bring up here. Okay? Kirk Herbstreit, nothing but respect to you. He has been a victim of Ohio State fans, very much like Ryan Day is right now. He has. I mean, he moved his family out of Columbus. Whatever. The Ohio State fan bases can be tough to deal with.
You and I will talk about that at off pod.
But Kirk Herbstreit himself said, I've never seen an opposing crowd there. Now, there was maybe, like I said, tops earlier, 15,000, 20,000 Tennessee fans. And a place that holds 107,000. Okay, that is not half. Chris Fowler at one point said that an Ohio State offsides may have been caused by the Tennessee fans. In no way is that possible. And so this gets worse. And I just, like I said, I want to bring a couple things here. Herbie last night said that there were Ohio State fans that would have rather beat Michigan than win a national title. Now, I'm going to tell you, I know a lot of diehard fans. Now, I don't know every Ohio State fan. I have a lot of friends that went to Ohio State. I have guys like myself who have, big fat heads on their wall of the shoe and other memorabilia. There is nobody, given the choice of a national championship or a Michigan victory, that would choose Michigan. Just in no world does that exist.
No,
Okay,
not realistically, no.
so there was a narrative that ESPN was trying to drive last night that the Ohio State fan base is terrible, that the SEC fans from the South were God's gift to football, that Ryan Day should be wearing a Kevlar vest because of these horrible Ohio State fans. Down 42-10. So the game is 42-10. I told you I came with receipts.
Love this.
I literally typed this on my phone last night because I was just dumbfounded.
I feel like a proud parent right now. Usually I'm the one with more receipts than CBS.
So last night, it's kind of garbage time. It's 42-10. Ohio State has its third teamers in. Okay, like I said, Julian Sains at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally heard Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit talking about the validity of Indiana and SMU being in the playoffs and should they have been there. Has their SEC team, Tennessee, was losing by 32. You have to be kidding me. So it's not just Paul Feinbaum. It's not just the talking heads. But there is a narrative. Okay, don't get me started last year. Now Gary Danielson is calling Big Ten games. And he knows who's paying his bills because now he's the biggest Big Ten fan. But once again, that guy would have married Nick Saban had he had a chance while he was calling SEC games. What Chip or
we don't
Brian
judge,
Brian
we
Kelly?
listen, and we don't judge.
Gary Danielson's Brian Kelly, that's his real accent. He's not faking that. He's from the Bayou, didn't you know? I mean, like, it was insane to listen to Gary Danielson in the last 10 years that CBS had that contract. And now you get to, and just watch, seriously, just pay attention to Gary Danielson on the Big Ten, calling Big Ten games. It's the same thing.
You're not wrong.
But there is an SEC bias with ESPN. It is crystal clear. And it's not the overwhelming things that people complain about. It's the little things. Like, once again, what's the validity of Indiana and SMU getting in, when a 3-loss Alabama, who lost to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma, by the way, when they were held out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, while their SEC team, the team they all wanted to win, like, without doubt, ESPN wants Tennessee to win that game.
Absolutely.
That's why they're making the Ohio State fans a villain. That's why they're making Ryan Day this sympathetic character that he should just get out and he should just resign and leave Ohio State because they don't deserve him. That was the narrative yesterday. That was the narrative all week going into it.
Absolutely.
How in the world can they justify how they cover things? Because even today, I'm listening to Paul Feinbaum, who's the biggest SEC honk there is. And he was still arguing that SMU and Indiana, both with one loss, had no business in the dance. And 3-loss Alabama would have been better, or 3-loss South Carolina would have been better. Or Tennessee, they earned it. Like, just stop. They insult us as fans. And so, once again, I know we're going to have to deal with ESPN for the rest of this tourney, but it just drives me insane. And thank you for letting me go on my rant. Thank you.
You feel better?
I do so much. I've been holding
I've
been holding that in for 24 hours now. Like,
big feelings, buddy.
That was deep inside. I've been holding that in for like a decade, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and again, once again, tonight apparently is the night of me. You're not wrong, because it's always been that though. It's been the Big Ten against everybody because there is no respect. I mean, you're talking about the years when you had 3 teams, well, 4 depending on the year. So you had 4 teams in the Big Ten that were dominating and just still continuing to get disrespected. But you have the SEC that will go out there and lose to a team like Vanderbilt and, not realize that within the SEC, you do have maybe 4 or 5 teams that are serviceable. The rest of the SEC is nothing but cupcakes. So you want to come to me and be like, well, we're just going to schedule more conference games. Now with people really, really taking a look to see, okay, we need to see the strength of schedule. Case in point, Indiana. Uh, you're not going to see as many out of conference games.
And I'm going to defend Indiana for a second, and I'm going to tell you why. We hear about strength of schedule, and you look at SEC strength of schedule, and it is true. It's always, those teams in the SEC always have the toughest strength of schedule because the national media props up a Florida, who's not very good. They'll prop up an Auburn. Every year, they'll prop up a Missouri. They'll prop up, Ole Miss had a good year. Lane Kiffin was online last night complaining, and then watched Tennessee get blown out. They'll prop these teams up, so in the preseason, they are ranked. They're a top 25. Like, half of the SEC's top 25 team ranked. So when you do your strength of schedule at the time of that game, of course it looks like they have it. Even though some of those teams are going to finish the year with 3 wins, they were ranked at the beginning of the year. Okay, that is once again SEC bias inherent into the system, and yeah. So when you're talking about like strength of schedule at Indiana having a terrible strength of schedule, or SMU having a terrible strength of schedule, and they should be in and they're not deserving. Let's talk about the SEC's strength of schedule, because if you look at the SEC up and down, they have one of the toughest. Vanderbilt has a tough strength of schedule. In Georgia, they have the number 1 toughest strength of schedule in the country. Auburn has a tough strength of schedule. Whoever has Oklahoma, whatever team in the SEC. Well, because a lot of that is predicated on the early season rankings and when they are playing teams. And if you look in the top 25, about every year, there is 6 to 7 SEC teams in the top 25. So inherently in the system, they are better teams than what Indiana's playing or what SMU's playing, because they get this bias that they're in the SEC, so they're better than everybody. And that skews strength of schedule. And the talking heads at ESPN, okay, and once again, my rant's on ESPN tonight, the talking heads there want you to believe, they want us to believe that is a superior conference of football. As we are seeing, the top of the Big Ten, they're probably better than the top of the SEC this year. And in years they have. The defending national champion is from the Big Ten. Okay? The 2 favorites, the 2 odds-on favorites are playing next week for the national title, or for the quarterfinal, are from the Big Ten. So stop giving me this early season BS that, Auburn or whoever, like, just Missouri is a top 20 team. Since when? Because they beat Ohio State when half their team went to the portal or was injured last year?
Right.
Like, Ohio State's starting quarterback left them high and dry last year. Yeah, I'm talking to you, Kyle McCord. By the way, that's another one. Oh, look at, Kyle McCord, he did right getting out of Ohio State. I heard that on ESPN.
Oh, I did too.
No, he wasn't good enough to be at Ohio State. He wasn't good enough last year. Ryan Day, to his credit, wouldn't guarantee that kid. He said, you have to compete. And you know what Kyle McCord didn't want to do and his dad didn't want him to do? They didn't want him to compete. So he went to Syracuse where he didn't have to compete, and he played a weak schedule.
Hold on. Time out. Do you know why he went to Syracuse?
Because
Do you know why it was Syracuse or nothing?
I imagine there was an NIL deal, or they said you can start. What was it?
There may have been an NIL deal. Syracuse's coach and his dad are buddies, and he's actually coached Kyle before.
Hey, relationships matter. They matter.
So, nepotism is a huge thing.
Yeah.
So no,
and I have, and like I said, I don't have a problem with a kid entering the portal. I have a problem with a kid entering the portal when his team is still in a bowl game, or his team is in the playoffs. Devin Brown is in the portal. You know what Devin Brown did last night? He took snaps.
He did.
Played.
He took a snap.
He's not leaving until he's done.
See, and I also, so I feel the same way that you do, is that you've got a kid who's in the portal who is still out there, who's fighting for his team. I also have the same thought in regards to kids that are going to bowl games.
Yeah.
And your team still needs you.
Yep.
No, I'm not feeling it, dude.
Yep.
I want to save my draft prospects, and I want to, I want to get injured, and I just don't feel like it. Now I'm looking at you, Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Well, and
Hi, Marvin Harrison Jr. Looking at you, pal.
wholeheartedly
So
agree.
if unless you have a season-ending injury and you actively sit out, or you actively enter the portal, you know, as Buckeye fans, it's always, once a Buckeye, always a Buckeye. Until you do things like that.
Yeah,
And
and
at that point, it's like,
yeah,
go.
yeah,
Goodbye.
and no, I totally agree with you because you know what? When it comes down to it, a college education ain't free,
No.
as we all know. We both been there. We both had to pay student loans. We get it. Okay. And I realize that now they're signing NIL deals, some for 7 figures. Some of these kids are getting. But that university giving you a free scholarship is taking a hit
Absolutely.
for you to play a game. So yeah, I have zero. I don't respect that move whatsoever.
No.
I don't respect hitting the portal. And once again, now portal rules are portal rules, like when it opens. But you finish out the season with your team.
Right.
You finish out. You don't leave them high and dry like we saw last year with Kyle McCord.
Right.
And what makes I guess I'm even more angry because I spent all last year defending Kyle McCord in his play.
You and I got into some pretty heated arguments.
We
about
did.
Kyle.
We were on opposite. Like I'm like that kid is not as bad as everybody's making him out to be. There's just a lot of pressure being an Ohio State quarterback, and like you and I went back and forth on it. And then he let a lot of Buckeye fans down last year.
He did.
He really did. Anyway.
But to kind of circle it back just a little bit real quick before we get out of here, the Big Ten, and especially Ohio State in the Big Ten, has been held to a different standard than any of the SEC teams. And it's not just this past year. I mean, it's been, I would say, the last decade and a half, if not longer.
It's really since the TV contracts.
Yeah, since the TV contracts started to come in.
Since TV became a big part of this, like there have been narratives that have been formulated, that have been woven, and just let's settle it on the field. Let's stop stop worrying about, like I said, the talking heads of the world.
But so you have Ohio State who's ranked high going into every season, from the AP, which, side note, we spend so much time living and eating and dying by the AP results for the majority of the season until it's CFP time. And then the AP polls don't even matter anymore. Now it's all about the CFP. It's weird.
That is a crazy thought when you think about it.
It is.
It really is.
So, but historically, we have Ohio State that is always ranked high going into the season, throughout the season, and they are judged at a different level because
they are.
If you're blowing out a team, you're putting 50, 60 points up on a team. And the talking bobbleheads the next day, the narrative comes out to be, well, why wasn't it 70 points? Why didn't you put up even more points?
Right. That wasn't an impressive enough win.
Right. It wasn't an impressive enough win.
Yep.
Meanwhile, you have an SEC team like Georgia or like Alabama or Texas. Not necessarily Texas because this is their first year in the SEC. But LSU, you've got them.
The traditional teams. Yep.
The traditional teams that are very high on ESPN's praise list because of those 3 little letters of the conference that they belong to. So you've got them. Georgia was a perfect example. Georgia was ranked number 1 for like the majority of last year. And we were all talking, they're going to have to outright lose to fall. And they were going into games and they were either not having a strong showing, which is possible. Everybody has an off day, whatever, these are kids. They're not machines. It's not Madden. These are actually, when it comes down to it, they're kids. So you've got a Georgia team who escapes with a win, has to come from behind to win. And then the apologists start. The SEC apologists start. And it's, well, it's this factor and that factor and that factor. But meanwhile, again, you've got not only Ohio State, you've got Big Ten teams in general that are like, well, because we really started to hear the strength of schedule argument when the CFP was formed, and especially on those years where Ohio State had maybe one loss, or even on those years that they were still undefeated, it was still,
Yeah.
who did they play though?
Yep.
Meanwhile, especially the years that we were undefeated and they are blowing teams out, still not strong enough. That strength of schedule still is pretty weak. It's not an SEC, blah, blah, blah. So that's been going on forever and it's going to continue forever. But now, this year, you've actually had in the top, I want to say the top 10, you had at least 5 Big Ten teams ranked in the top 10 in the AP poll consistently.
Yeah, absolutely. But Indiana
And
didn't deserve to be there. Penn State didn't deserve to be there.
Indiana did not deserve to be there.
So I think, as we're winding down the pod for this week, I remember promising our viewing audience that you had some words for Mr. Kirk Cignetti, let's call him the coach pundit. We've been talking about football punditry today, which I think some of the football pundits are worse than political pundits. Let's talk about Kirk Cignetti, football pundit.
Shall we? And it'll go right into the comment that I had just made. Indiana did not deserve to be in that conversation. And you asked me, because I said when we were texting when the Indiana game was Indiana-ing, who would you have taken in aside from Indiana?
Yeah, so we were texting Friday night as Notre Dame was just manhandling Indiana, and BB, once again, as we know, famously did not think Indiana was a deserving team. So I just asked her. I said, who should be there? So this is where we went.
So what I said, records-wise, I would have gone Army. They were another 11-1 team. They did also have, some not great games themselves, going back to the strength of schedule argument.
But only lost to a very good Notre Dame team.
Correct.
Okay.
Or I would have taken the other 10-2 team from the SEC, which was Miami.
ACC. Yeah.
Oh, they are in the ACC.
Yeah,
I
ACC.
am so sorry about
that. No, it's
all right. So I would have taken them from the ACC because they had the 10-2 record. A 9-3 Alabama team was nowhere, and they should be nowhere near the conversation. Ole Miss, unfortunately, fell apart in some big games, and that really hurt them this year. So they wouldn't even be in the conversation either. LSU, not in the conversation.
South Carolina, people are like, they might be the best roster, and no, they're not. Just stop.
They can be the best roster on paper, but it all takes down to what happens on the field.
And not only that, but South Carolina has never had the best roster ever in college football. Just please stop that. Anyway, I digress.
So going back to Indiana, did they deserve to be there? Record-wise, yes. Strength and level of competition and competitive play, no. Now, here's what I'm going to say. Indiana, again, they went from a team last year. They had 3 wins as a whole.
Right.
So to completely change the culture down there, and it is because of Cignetti and a lot of the players that transferred in from James Madison, I will say, to turn that around and to go 11 and finish your season 11-2. Was it 11-2?
11-2. Yep.
11.
They were 11-1 going into the tournament.
Is huge. That's amazing. To go from 3 wins to 11 wins is phenomenal. But where I say that they did not necessarily belong, and we saw it with SMU. We saw it with, Georgia even struggled yesterday. No, not Georgia. No.
Texas.
Clemson,
Clemson,
sorry.
Texas. Yep.
Clemson and Texan, they struggled. So where I say that they don't belong is the fact that, and it was the downfall of their season. And I said this before, Michigan kind of they pulled the curtain a little bit. They started just to expose. They pulled up that corner and they showed them. And so then they come in, they escape Ann Arbor with a 5-point win. Starts running their mouth. Then you get a bye week. And again, as you mentioned earlier, Ohio State is a team that responds to talk. They love bulletin board material.
Yeah, I'm hoping Oregon starts opening their mouth this like right now.
Their coach will do that because he's another one who is not quite as vocal, but he.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of a Dan Lanning fan, but we'll talk. We can talk about that next week. Preparation for the game.
We can talk about that next week.
Yeah, because they're not going to play until after our next pod, so we got some time.
But I am getting my birthday present, so that's nice. It is on New Year's Day.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so you have Ohio or Michigan that pulled the curtain up a little bit. Ohio State pulled it fully open, and last night Friday night, excuse me, Notre Dame ripped it off the hinges. Like it just ripped it off the rod and just showed them that while yes, on paper going into this game you were 11-1. The caliber and the skill and the competitiveness, unfortunately, was not there. And it's a great thing for those kids. I think they should have had a higher, they should have just gone out with a greater bowl game. I don't think they should have been in the college football playoff conversation. But they're still going to be tweaking this now. So I was slightly amused by the fact that they were absolutely manhandled in Columbus by the Ohio State Buckeyes. And then Friday night, they were absolutely dog-walked by a former Ohio State Buckeye himself.
Man, what a job Marcus Freeman's doing at Notre Dame.
He is, and you know what? I love to see it for him. I absolutely love to see it. He has also turned that program around.
I don't root for any other teams, but I'm not upset if Notre Dame wins. I'm a big Marcus Freeman fan. He's building such a good program there, and they're just a tough team. They're just a tough-nosed, hard-hitting team, and just a throwback team. And it was a lot of fun watching them beat up on Indiana on Friday.
Good. And it wasn't just because they were beating up on Indiana. They were doing some old school smash mouth football, and it was beautiful.
Just ran it right down their throats. Ran it right down their throats. Yeah. So, there are going to be things that. There's one thing I agree. I heard today once again by Paul Feinbaum. He said, every year there's only about 4 or 5 teams that could really win a national title. That doesn't change with this playoff. Maybe you get a team one year, it's Cinderella's it and gets hot at the right time. Maybe that's Boise State next week. We don't know. But I also love the fact that some of these teams have earned it on the field, get to play for a national title. And I come from a D3 background, being a Mount Union Purple Raider, who are going back to the Stag Bowl next week to play a very good North Central team. But anyway, go Raiders! Friday night, 7 o'clock. They're playing in Houston, Texas. Looking for their 14th Stag Bowl title, national championship. But being somebody who's been watching college football playoffs for a long time, since I was in high school at Alliance, this is the right way to do it. They just, you said it. It's got to be tweaked. There's got to be some fixes. They have to also stop listening to commissioners and just make it a pure playoff. I don't care how much power the SEC or the Big Ten commissioners have. Just figure out, put the best thing. Like, for example, if you win your conference, doesn't mean you get an automatic bye. It should be the top 4. It should be the top 4 teams. Let the top 4 teams get in there. Oregon, Oregon, number 1 team in the nation. And what do they get for that? Oh, they get to play Ohio State. And, who they barely got by earlier and might be the best team in the tournament. that is a terrible draw for Oregon. They deserve better. They deserve better. So they'll figure that out, or reseed after rounds, whatever you got to do. But just get that figured out. So, BB, anything else left for the pod?
No, I think we have journeyed quite a bit. We have apparently, even with your little visitor, we've even gone beyond the realm of the universe, possibly.
Yeah, I'm like still the heart's still beating from that. Still crazy. We are not alone. Whether it's the U.S. government, the Chinese, or aliens, there is something up there, and I saw it with my own eyes tonight. So, anyway, with that,
With that,
next week we will have another addition to the Browns funeral march to the end of the season. We got Miami at 4:00, so it's gonna be a little later start. Hey, at least that was flex from 8:00.
hey, you
Yeah,
know,
at least they took it out of prime time, and then we will preview the Rose Bowl.
the Rose Bowl indeed.
Absolutely excited, excited, excited. So, BB, happy holidays, Merry Christmas,
Happy holidays, Merry Christmas to
and
you, sir.
and we will. I'll let you take us out here, and everybody listening, please like and subscribe, and happy holidays to you guys.
That's right.
We do it for you. Honestly, we do. We this is why we're here.
Absolutely. So I am BB,
I'm BC.
and this has been the I-71 Playbook Podcast.